welcome to Quackalope, thank you for being here. Today, I'm going to be bringing you a Kickstarter preview of Black Rose Wars Rebirth by Ludus Magnus Studios. And I'm going to be honest, this Kickstarter already has a substantial amount of support. I'm assuming some of you watching just are looking for more information, because it's raised over, I think, $1.2 million at the time of this recording. So, if you want to check it out, swing down to the link at the very top of this video description. Like always, there is a ton of updates and exclusives and new information being released every single day, and I have been following along with the campaign with bated breath. Because, I'm going to be honest, this prototype is an iteration upon a game that I absolutely adored, Black Rose Wars. And Rebirth is going to be kind of the next chapter in that saga. It is the next standalone game while being fully backwards compatible. So there's a lot of elements here that you might want to pick and choose, keep an eye on, and if you already have the original, there are some reasons to look at getting this new expansion. And if you don't have the original yet, I might present some arguments that would encourage you to get this more streamlined version as opposed to the other one, just for ease of play and the way that you can operate and get things down to the table. That being said, let me give you an overview of what's happening here in Rebirth, and then go through some of the high-level elements that I'm familiar with. Some of the things you'll see changed from the old game to this game, and some of the reasons why you might want to consider backing or not backing this project. So, Black Rose Wars Rebirth. The Lodge is now destroyed, the Order of Mages governed and managed by the Grand Magistrate, but a faint memory. The masters of the various schools have died or have chosen exile, but the rose still lives. A faint voice, almost a whisper, echoes in the air like a distant call. A magical force still pulsates from the rubble. A generation has passed since the coming of Lucifer, and his defeat is an event that only a few remember, and the wizards involved. Those few left alive know what happened inside the once grand palace. Ordinary mortals trace the events back to a massive explosion that took place in the cold winter night, probably caused by some clandestine distillery. Little do they know. This is Black Rose Wars Rebirth. This is going to be a game set in that academy, that battle of mages that took place in the original, except now brush and herb has overgrown the foundations of the school, and you're arriving back here seeking out the Black Rose, that archaic magical relic that released cataclysmic destruction in the original episode. You are here a generation past, and you have brand new characters who are doing their very best to hone their skills, train their magic, and come here to display their mastery and battle until they can declare themselves the new master of the academy. Along with that, you will be drawing on magical abilities, summoning beasts and creatures, taking hold and destroying, wreaking havoc on the rooms, but instead of causing destruction this time, you will be rebuilding, reestablishing the glory that once existed, and like the title indicates, rebirthing this legend, bringing the academy back to life and claiming your rightful seat on its, well, throne in some regards. Black Rose Wars is going to be a very interesting approach to a skirmish game, with modular tiles, rooms that are destructible, lots of powers and escalating abilities, along with asymmetric player characters. This game presents a lot of opportunity to do crazy, fun things and engage in really tactical combat. You see, this is going to be a combination of two of my favorite mechanics: hardcore programming and asymmetric powers, paired with deck building. Now, deck building is one of my favorite systems altogether, and from here, every single round, you'll be drawing from various schools of magic. Rebirth is going to present a whole new arsenal of schools, including in this prototype, Alchemy, Nightmare, Techromancy, Shamanic, Agony, and Hex. These schools of magic are going to be customized to certain properties and abilities. We'll go through those in just a little bit, analyzing how they can be used in the core game. But every turn you're going to be drawing up 4 cards and deciding which ones to add not only to your hand and to your deck, your arsenal of skill set, your grimoire, which is the book of spells that a wizard or mage carry with them, you'll also be programming onto your board. Now, the programming isn't heavy, but I do like the way it makes you challenge yourself and think through what the next set of turns are going to be. You see, you have to lay a series of spells, traps, quick spells, activated abilities, and some of them can be activated. The top slot here can be activated at any time through the process of play. The others, though, you have to do in a sequence of turns. And so if you're summoning, buffeting, attacking, moving to utilize a room's ability, or taking advantage of someone's tactical error, you will have had to have processed and thought through that a little bit before the game actually starts. You see, when you draw up cards and you select which ones you want to keep, you'll also be drawing from your escalating deck. And that combination of cards is what you play down. 4 core actions, including, like I said, traps and quick spells, will set the course for how you engage on the board. Once you've went through your programming stage, you'll be fighting here in the skirmish arena. You'll be able to inflict damage, not only on your opponents, but also on the board and the tiles on the board, doing your very best to activate their abilities and flip them over to their alternative side. When you successfully cause enough damage and re-establish the room, it'll work as it did in the original Black Rose Wars, having its own special custom location ability that when you utilize, you'll flip over and exhaust. You'll also be able to fight with students and their minions on the board, or potentially take control of their minions and use them for your own nefarious deeds. When you fight with other students, you'll be adding damage to their timeline, alongside the Black Rose, which is always sucking and draining life from everything around it, or giving life, I suppose, but it doesn't feel that way when it's slowly stealing magical essence from you. You will be adding damage cubes and markers, not to your own, but to your opponent's timelines. These damage markers indicate how much or how effective you've been when it comes to fighting in all of these different elements. If you control the most territory, or have done the most damage, or the most, I suppose it's not damage technically, if you've restored the most health to each one of these rooms throughout the course of battle, you will score the most in-game victory points. If you have done the most damage to your opponent, you will do the same. You get a benefit from having not killed them, not the final blow, but instead inflicted the cause of death. Just 1 cube more, and you will get victory points for having inflicted any damage at all in every single one of these areas. That makes a really interesting tactical system, where you're trying to run around and pop or ping a variety of little hits. Make sure you control damage in the areas that you want to inflict it, in the areas that you really want to score on, but always encourages you to maneuver and hit a variety of different objectives and obstacles. Alongside that, you're going to have your own custom character cards, which are always your standard abilities. Everyone starts with 3 of those. You'll be drawing up and building your deck from any number of the alchemy opportunities you have, and you will also be fighting against the Black Rose. As the timeline escalates and cards start flipping, you'll be progressing and moving their score markers up and down this time track. The thing that's so fantastic about Black Rose Wars is its approach to the skirmish game element. Introducing the mix of deck building into this system really does give you a lot of fun powers, abilities, and tactical choices that you can make throughout the course of play. And this game, Rebirth, is going to introduce the opportunity for some really well done customized AI factions or summons that can operate as a 3rd or 4th player if you're only playing this as a 2 or 3 player game. That provides a little bit more interest and a little bit more tactical negotiation when it comes to the board state, and for me, really is necessary when you're getting this to the table. It really does put a little bit of a buffer. It closes in the space a little bit more and gives everyone something to interact with. So, Black Rose Wars. Let's talk about Rebirth. What is Rebirth introducing when it comes to this? And first off, you should totally swing over to the campaign page because they have so much new stuff they've released. Like they did in the original Black Rose Wars, this is full of expansion content and deluxeified components and Kickstarter exclusive elements and, of course, lots of new wizards and mages who can utilize various special powers and abilities with their own custom AI decks and character artwork, along with a lot of different summons, various different gods that you can face up against. Right now they're digging into Egyptian and I think Viking mythology in a lot of ways, bringing those old school kind of deities to life on the board state and allowing you to work or fight against them or fight to the death so you can win their honor. They're also introducing brand new schools of magic that you can utilize throughout the course of play, and because this integrates backwards, you can also bring in all of those other original schools of magic, like the one that allows you to control spiders, arachnomagia, or something like that. I don't know what it's actually called. It's going to be bringing all of those in to combine with this. And, of course, all of these fantastic miniatures that they've had throughout the course, you're going to have a whole new collection of beasts and creatures that you can summon and use and, well, manipulate across the board. The current campaign has unlocked nearly daily content and daily miniatures. So, what is Black Rose Wars Rebirth introducing? For me, this is introducing a slightly more streamlined and I'd say more approachable version of the original Black Rose Wars. The self-contained box here, I think, is going to be a lot easier to get to the table, with custom modified player containers that help you bring everything out of the box and set it down or put it away and store it, to really well done and streamlined cards and brand new player boards. This is probably going to be the most approachable version of this game that I have seen so far. You still will have to dig through quite a hefty rulebook, and player aids and items like that will be useful. I know the original had some that were created by BGG, and so hopefully we'll see some really handy player aids officially developed based off of those other references. Because I know for myself, having those keywords and having those turn selections and actions on hand, not just in the rulebook, became essential to how I was approaching and teaching the game to new players. Along with that, the introduction of brand new characters that you can cross-play and the brand new creatures that you can fight against, or AI characters that you can summon and either engage in combat or have them fill out the game map, they really do add something of value to the play experience and help buff it out or increase, sort of, like I said, the action on the board. I'd say that including some of them, especially in lower player counts, adds interest and excitement to the game and brings back to life what you experience at a 3 or 4 player level of this game. Along with that, we of course have our brand new Alchemy units. These are going to take advantage and be customized around certain abilities and skills. A whole new arsenal of keywords and summons and abilities are really going to open up brand new opportunities for how you're manipulating the board. For instance, Hex. Some spells in this school assign Jinx cards to the target mage. The Jinx card must be taken from its deck and placed next to the target mage's sheet. Each Jinx card inflicts a negative effect on the mage it is assigned to, but it also describes a specific condition that the mage fulfills to allow them to discard it. So we have Jinx cards, we have Agony. Some spells of this school have Pain effect. When this effect is applied, Black Rose inflicts a certain amount of pain on the mage that casts the spell. This damage of the Black Rose on the mage sheet of the mage that casts some of the spells of this school are used to obtain enhanced effects. So you're taking damage from the Black Rose in order to buffet some of your other abilities. We have Shamanic. Shamanic schools are focused on summoning totems, and they use them as starting points of powerful spell effects. So more on-board location type things, like the shrines and things that you could summon in the original. We have Techomancy. Some spells in this school assign upgrade cards to the target evocation. The upgrade card must be taken from the deck and placed next to the target's evocation card. An evocation card can have a single upgrade on it. A school's upgrade is assigned to an evocation. The first is discarded. This is a really cool element to the game because I am summoning these creatures into the board. So I'm going to be engaged in a variety of different battles, right? Summoning hellhounds and other beasts that I'm playing with. And this will allow me to start manipulating or adjusting them, adding brand new elements to the game that I'm playing. This not only adds a really interesting element to the board state, but for me, gives me more fun things to play with and allows me to start customizing the creatures that I'm summoning onto the board. We have Nightmare. Some spells in the schools assign special evocation with the Nightmare archetype to the target mage's evocation, with the Nightmare archetype follows these rules. It's considered under the Black Rose's control and activates at the start of the evocation phase under the Black Rose's control. It is not summoned, but assigned to a mage. A nightmare model attaches to that mage it is assigned to, moves with it, and cannot be moved otherwise. The assignment of a nightmare places this card into one of the summoned spaces of the mage to which it is attached. The nightmare card covers any summoned cards present on the summoned space. The card of an evocation summoned into a space already occupied by a nightmare card will be placed under that card. Evocations that have their card covered by a nightmare cannot activate. When a mage is defeated, all nightmares assigned to him are removed. So this creates just a buffet and attached thing where these nightmares are following that mage around, they're covering up their other summons, keeping them from actually utilizing them, and controlled by the Black Rose. Yeah, doesn't sound like a pretty thing to have tied to you. And then finally we have Alchemy. Some spells in this schools have the enhancement effect. This effect is applied only if the active side of the other revealed spell on the mage's board of the mage who cast the spell shows the indicated element's symbol. This means that you're going to be able to trigger extra abilities on your cards based on their front and back sides. It's one of the cool things about this deck building system. Every single card has dual use or multi-use, and so when you play it down your timeline, you're going to be deciding what side of the card you want to use and how that's going to sequence with everything else. It just adds a little bit more choice to a hand of 4 cards, meaning you have 8 potential actions and a whole slew of potential combinations. So that's just a taste of some of these enhanced spells and abilities and the way that the game is playing. What are some of the things that might make this game not right for you if you're still deciding if you want to get into Black Rose Wars? Well, first off, it is not a light game. Black Rose Wars is, I would say, a mid to heavy approach to a skirmish game with a lot of strategic decisions and very little forgiveness when it comes to poor tactical play. This game is going to reward a group of 3 or 4 players that really can sit down every couple of weeks and dig back into it. It has a lot to offer, but that also means it's going to take a lot to get up and running, and you're probably going to need a solid play session, or at least 2 or 3 rounds, where you want to restart from the very beginning and actually start playing the game. If you're teaching this to someone new, give them a grace period to learn and then play from the beginning again, because there's going to be tactical decisions that they make from the very start that will impact the entire course of play, and an early mistake really can put you on your back foot. Along with that, this will be cross-compatible, but with how much content is in the original Black Rose Wars, I don't know if I'm going to be mixing my 2 copies together very often. Maybe for some specific scenarios or gaming sessions, or maybe to pull one mage from one unit to the other, but in my opinion, if you already own Black Rose Wars, determine if you get it to the table very often. If you don't, you might want to consider reevaluating how often you're playing this version of the game. This one will be more accessible, but I don't know that it'll be that much more accessible than the original base game. That being said, if you don't own Black Wars already, I don't think you need to pick up everything that's contained. I think what you should look for is getting Rebirth, which is already a more accessible version of the game, and then if you love it, picking and choosing where you want to add things in. There's going to be so much content here that I don't know that I need to use this as an expansion piece of content yet, as opposed to, I'm going to play this as a standalone version of a game that I already enjoy. I have another year or so to play Black Rose Wars the original, and when this officially arrives, this will probably be the version of the game that I get to the table. Along with that, you really should think about the 2 core systems that are in play here. If you like deck building, which is one of my favorite systems, and you like programming or lightweight programming combined with skirmish, this might be a game that you'll enjoy. But if either of those aren't systems that you typically gravitate to or really, really get a lot out of, this game heavily focuses on those 2 core mechanics. The programming is, of course, informing the skirmish system, but you do have to think ahead and think on your feet and be able to adjust to what's happening on the board and the map. And the deck building is not but essential to the core gameplay. If you don't enjoy thinking through and watching as cards puzzle themselves together, this just won't be a game for you. That being said, there is a lot of information over on the campaign, and I've encouraged you a few times to hit that link at the top of the video description and swing over there and check it out. Ultimately, you'll have to make the decision for yourself. This has been a preview of Black Rose Wars Rebirth. Hopefully I've been informative and given you some things to think about. I know myself, I'm excited to continue playing this and continue playing the original. It has been a game that I've really loved to have in my collection. With that being said, whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. We'll see you next time. Thank you.